I sometimes wonder whoever came up with this idea of the seven sisters of the Northeast as this wonderfully diverse region bundled so well into one identity that was, well, so united. But do things really look like that from the inside? There appears to be so little interaction between people living in these different states, each of us content in our isolation, having our own ideas of what we like or don't like. I guess I should know this. I belong here.
See, the first thing is, in the Northeast, we have our ethnic cultural differences. From our face also, they used to call us chinkies and like that. We cannot blame them, really, because we are different.
People from outside the Northeast think that the Northeast people are clubbed together and they know each other. In fact, we are not knowing each other.
Talking about a common identity or talking about an affiliation, we are Northeasterners, this and that, when the actual practical ground reality is such that we don't need each other at all.
You talk about culture, you talk about identity. To me personally, I feel culture is a way of life. Your identity is, okay, your root is there. You cannot do away with your root. You are a Mizo, you are born as a Mizo. Your Mizo-ness will remain.
Among all the states, by far the least visible, almost hidden I would think, is Mizoram. Because of its geographical and emotional isolation, it remains even today secluded and distant. At a time when there are efforts all around for the assimilation of the Northeast into the so-called mainstream of the country, for the most part, what goes on in Mizoram stays in Mizoram.
The monocultural aspect or syndrome where there's a drive for speaking one common language. So without interacting with other people, people speak one language, supposedly follow one ethos. So their ability to converse with other people, to understand other people is very limited because they ensconce in that little shell.
Being a non-Mizo and living in an age of image fixations, the only visible symbol that existed in my mind of the place was that of the bamboo dance, which I later learned was not even called by that name, but as the chero.
Đi chỗ nào tàn chero telo calambe.
Every community or like nations have their own symbol of dance and like those sort of things. So this bamboo dance is like a symbol for the Mizos. So it is very important for us. When we say bamboo dance or chero, it means Mizo. So in that sense we take it.
With the complete conversion of the Mizo people to Christianity, a lot of what was the traditional way of life seems to have changed. And just as much as the chero was for me a symbol of Mizoram, even for Mizos themselves, it has today become a crucial emblem of their identity and changing cultural ethos. These changes seem to have given rise today to the need for a deliberate revival of traditional culture. This gets reflected every year when a voluntary organization called the Young Mizo Association organizes the popular YMA cultural dance competition at Aizawl, the state capital.
No, after the next, yeah, someone is there. I feel very light. Yeah, we'll win.
Any small community will talk more about preservation of culture, identity kind of thing. As far as we are concerned, I think that's all right. I mean, let this kind of thing goes on and let other kind of thing also goes on. And having that kind of running trophy, I feel it's okay, but it should not be too much,
YMA cultural dance is just only one part of the YMA. It's not enough.
And truly, in this effort of the YMA to consciously revive and nurture the traditional forms, the chero and the tribal costumes have now turned into icons of cultural expression, almost as if they were holding on to an identity that was fast becoming unrecognizable. "68 years ago, I can imagine, it was this very sense of uncertainty that prompted the birth of the Young Mizo Association in Lunglei.
Mission na thok le sarkar na thok pe kanin lat mai in pol ho thu rani ti kha bulania ta chuan kanin kom hoa alo radio sang kha jo sam thum pali chu chu tranania sam thum pangala ma khan sam thum pangala ma khan kan hanin kom chho ta zela chu chuan pol siamang anti ta pol kha gan siam do na pizai miss hughes lady missionary ina kan leng khomani din dan tur kha kan ngai tu ta chu ta chuan missionary David Edwards Khan Wells Rama chuan Young Wells Association kan neya atien sumia bang chuan kan upa de khan an benga berta leniang chu tieni chuan Young Lusai Association ti ve thalo.
The thing that really struck me about the YMA is the fact that it is huge. The ongoing membership of about 3.5 lakhs meant that 1 in every 3 Mizos was a YMA member. With more than 735 branches, it is visible all across the state and sometimes even outside of it. In every village and in every town, one just could not miss the familiar colors of the YMA, the red, white and black. It is there on everything we see, on signboards, on banners, and even on dustbins. Indeed, the YMA absolutely pervades Mizo life. And today, the YMA has emerged as the apex voluntary organization in Mizoram that formulates and implements a wide range of developmental activities covering almost all walks of life. Whether it is issues of environment or education, awareness generation or housing for the poor, preservation of culture, or even election management, the YMA's influence can be felt everywhere.
YMA. That is what YMA it is, like a blood through the all. I cannot express, but I know.
The birth of the YMA is quite unlike the origin of most other voluntary organizations. More than anything else, it is really the story of a makeover from a customary institution to the new and contemporary. The YMA is able, even today, to carry forward the traditional practice of voluntary labor called Natlang and the moral code of right living and conduct called Tuamgaina, which were once at the very core of the Zolbo or the bachelor's dormitories.
During the British invasion, the social institution that we call it Zolbo was abolished. Then when the Zolbo was abolished, then that means culturally and socially the Mizo has to be assimilated in such a way from the other states or from the Britishers. So luckily our former leaders, thinking that the culture and social be vanish in a thin air, so they formed this YMA, trying to retain the beautiful traditions of Mizo, so that it will make the Mizo identity to retain even for the future to come.
What the Zolbook did before was tutor young people to follow a basic pattern of life, ways of conduct, methods of fighting, war, all those were taught, people told tales there. And when the Christianity part of it became heavy, naturally the ethos was all different. And despite attributing the British for having reinvented the concept to rally around the church, I think we may be giving them too much credit. I think it would have stayed with the Mizos anyway.
I don't see the church is doing such a big role in the formation of the YMA, but practically YMA is also a social organization. But it was started by the then missionaries and some of the prominent church leaders within the church, I should say. The church leaders are very much aware of the need of motivating the young people in those days, and they started this YLA. Fu Chongzika was telling me that they regarded the YLA as the child of the church, but it was not totally formed under the church directly, but it was formed with the focus of the social issues, whereas the church is doing its own spiritual issues.
As a community, we need someone to take care of our whole community to look after that one. We are not happy. Sometimes we are facing death or something like that, which we cannot do only one a single family. So we have to combine it as a whole.
I have always found it uncomfortable to talk about death. And yet, in Mizoram, it is in the event of a death in the community that best brings out the imbibed values of Tuamgaina and Natlang. It is not the family, but the members of the YMA of the locality who make all arrangements related to the funeral services. The digging of the grave, the serving of refreshments, and the burial in agreement with Christian customs is all supervised by the YMA.
We have a lot of denominations and we have been divided because of these denominations. So this YMA is the only organization where it brings all the denomination together. We work together. There is no differentiate of any denomination. That is what is so great and good about the YMA.
The whole practice has become so systemized and so ingrained into the lives of the young in Mizoram that almost all YMA branches have their own public address systems, their own benches, tents, and any other material that might be required at times like this.
Tlomgaina is a philosophy, and they always ask me, if we no longer dig a grave, then it means that Tlomgaina will go away. It is not like that. Say in a big city like this, we will never dig a grave all the time, because the graveyard will be very, very far away from here. We'll never walk and reach there. So somebody will have to do that. We may need to hire somebody to dig a grave. If we reach that stage, it doesn't mean that Tlomgaina goes away, but simply with changing of times, the way we do things have been changed.
Lo cho zela kovel in herdang lam zela chuan Tlomgaina hantia weme lo lang bok nen rirua lo langa chuan tulai thalai te a hian kan nu la pa upal deuh zawk ten tulai thalai te a chuan Tlomgaina te hi adal ta deve a re ta deve a tia soina koimolai ta chuan om thina in hei no manan chena kan thalai te me rol tharan ni emo hi trang khatiang ang ho reng reng kha
Vang tin wal chuan in ka thir vong vong thi ka ma ngai zo ram wa yang lei ten nui ya lai tua le na oi ka noa le o kan rang moi kan vang lai hun le ni song te kan rang ta na
alang ai fiun ga hiama ro chu langbal thiam zo le bengwa zo te an lo chok zela politics ri manam lek lek mo ka tia chu pui ka tia ma se chu teng tak chu lo lo ba.
If the government is weak, and if the government is not having enough confidence within itself, then it means that it has to rely on somebody's strength. So since YMA being the biggest organization here, they rely on so many other things. But the problem is, the church is requesting us, the government is requesting us, and the women front are requesting us. So many pressures are there, so we are now in the crossroad.
The sad truth is that we are not all the same, as we have 735 branches of YMA throughout the entire states. We didn't have the same level of approach. Somebody can misuse their power. That is very dangerous. So whenever there is any NGO at the age of 60 years, it needs some rectify also. It has to be policed in such a way that it doesn't go beyond the certain limit.
In Mizo they call it, he's very good, he's very involved, you know. Involved in Mizo we call in mang. That has been the yardstick, you know. Just because you're involved, you're active member in the church or YMA, that should not be the yardstick, you know. The yardstick should be whether you are a man of, integrity, whether you're a man of strong principle, whether you fulfill your objectives, you are students, whether you passed out with good result, that kind of thing, you know. So I think the whole concept of, you know, the way we look at things, the way we judge things, you know, the merit of things, I think need to be slightly changed.
All are in that garden, a very beautiful garden, wherein there will be so many flowers. We are a very, very exotic flowers, let me say, in the Northeast. The Northeast people are exotic flowers. That is to be explored, not to be exploited. But at the same time, there is a time, as we said before, we are on the crossroad, things have been changed. We have to go out, we have to reach out, we have to explore the whole, this India itself. We just cannot stay like this alone as we used to.
But will this reinvention of identities really work? And to what extent does this genuinely seem possible? When the region is so divided today on issues of ethnicity and territory, can we really ever hope to rise above our differences and make real the image of a united Northeast and live out the myth of the Seven Sisters?
Though we didn't get the first one, that's okay. For the next time, we got to do better.
In many ways, the real significance of the YMA goes much beyond how many members it has or what large gatherings that it is able to organize. What we cannot overlook is that in these times of distances, it is essentially about how it has redefined the whole concept of community and developed a fresh worldview in order for it to survive. In the end, I guess it is really about how big lessons can be learnt from an art form so very wrongly called the bamboo dance.